What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to another Meta Monday Watch video. My name is Kevin. We're here with Zach Stone in the Ring of Stones, and we're going to go over Lorcana meta trends, tournament results, and what you should be expecting as we finish off the Wilds Unknown format and we make our way into Attack of the Vine. Now, we have a bunch of deck lists to go over, some CCQ winners alongside some Woody Championship winning deck lists, which we're going to go over today, while also talking about new cards that have been revealed in Attack of the Vine that we think you might want to add into these deck lists, especially because rotation is happening once Attack of the Vine comes out. So we have a lot of cards that are going to be leaving us when this set drops, especially in this ever so good, this constantly winning dog deck, man. Another CCQ down, another huge tournament down, and look at this, another dog deck winning, or in the finals, right? And I do want to give a shout out to Ace. I follow him on Twitter. Here's him winning the Diet Coke Invitational, where your entry fee was 1 case of Diet Coke. Very, very cool. He's been posting too a lot about how he has a meta fight guide for dogs, and he's pretty confident with the deck. So to see him take down the entire tournament with a stacked group of top 4, by the way, you have players that Zach and I know personally, the big players in the name. Top 4 was all green, yellow dogs, though. So, I mean, I'm so glad to watch this deck make its way out of the format, right, Zach?
I think the dog deck gonna lose Lady. Like Shift Lady, I think is one of the biggest losses that this deck is gonna suffer from because of the recursion ability. And being able to just play the long game for turn after turn has been this deck special. Sure, I can talk about 7-cost Tramp all day, but what really enables that Tramp is the fact that you can get all those little guys back with the late.
I think when looking at this deck, the amount of characters that are leaving, it makes it feel like we're not going to have to deal with the dog strategy anymore. However, the core strategy of the deck, being able to play a 1-cost character on 1 with a Grandmother Willow and another 1-cost character on turn 2, followed by a Nani Eleanor curve, is really strong, and you're still going to be able to do that post-rotation, and there's plenty of ways to do this. Most players are pivoting to the toy strategy. We have a bunch of low-cost toy characters, Woodies, Rexes, aliens. You have ways to be able to spam the board and play out more than one character a turn with your Shift Woody. I like the Shift Woody a lot. This is our set championship promo, and I think this is going to be a relevant card next format because you're going to be able to play multiple characters a turn. Oftentimes, you can use a Rex. It's a bodyguard character with 3 strength and 1 willpower to protect your board while playing this Woody. But we even have some new toys like the Shift Woody and Buzz Lightyear card. I've been seeing players kind of lean into this strategy, playing copies of Buzz Lightyear now, and it's a shift character for 5 ink that you can play on either your Woody or your Buzz, and that feels very consistent, right? Because you're giving me multiple options to be able to shift on this character. It's a 5 ink shift, but if you already have Willows on the board, you're going to be able to do this for a lot cheaper. And on play, kind of has this Clarabelle effect, right? You're able to draw cards to match your opponent's hand size. So if you're playing against a purple deck, we all know they like to have a lot of cards in their hand, so that can be kind of punishing. And then another ability, when you play this character, play another card with 2 cost or less for free. That's card, by the way. So you can play songs, you can play actions. It is green, yellow specific. It's a dual ink card, but I do like this card going into the new toy strategy. I think it is going to help it a lot.
1000%, Kevin. And I think you actually get a little bit more playability on the draw with some other cards that we just got revealed. The newly revealed Rapunzel Tower Keeper, really cool ability to be able to, when it enters play, discard a card and return a character to the chosen player's hand, is really strong. And may I add that it's also a princess that you can play pretty early with Aurora holding court as well. So on top of Grandmother Willow being able to just play your 4-cost characters early, this can just disrupt opposing Grandmother Willows when you're playing into the mirror match, right? And if you're starting off with Aurora into a Grandmother Willow on the draw, you can still get this character out a turn early. It's going to be able to help fight back into the most of these dog matchups. And I think there's other ways to kind of like combo off that effect if you're going to be putting cards into your discard quite often. There's other Lyle Tiberiuses that exist that allow you to essentially reduce the opposing lore that your opponent may have. I know that there's other abilities that they gain like extra strength when you put 2 or more cards into your discard that turn. And I'm pretty sure that this card sees a lot of play in other Emerald strategies, but this one specifically just makes the most sense because you can also refill your hand right back with that new shift buzz.
And before we move on, I do just want to give a cute shout out to our second CCQ winner. I think this was in Europe, in Zurich. Jari Wrench, shout out you for winning a CCQ with dogs. 2 CCQs, 2 dog winning deck lists. I do just want to note something. This Mickey Mouse Expedition Leader, this card's going to be really good post rotation, guys. I think this is going to be one of the most played Amber Supers in the new format. Playing it either in Amber Emerald or other Amber strategies, not just aggro decks either. I just really like this ability of being able to enter Exerted and then being able to tell your opponent, you basically can't challenge my characters next turn because all your characters are weenies now. And it's a pretty strong and pretty consistent ability to use in a deck like this. Eleanor is going to be good. We know Eleanor's sticking around. I think when you look at this deck, Chromacon is probably the one card that I'm like, you know what, that's going to make a pretty big difference, I think, in the meta. Because Chromacon was really obnoxious to play against. Maybe we replace it with Snowfort and you play like Snowfort toys or something. Or maybe you don't play toys at all. Maybe you play a more green, yellow, different aggro strategy with the Eleanor. But plenty of ways to play your decks post rotation as well. And I'm pretty satisfied that we're not going to be having this type of a dogs deck for core anytime soon, right? Let's go ahead and go over some Set Champs Woody winning deck lists. Huge shout out to everybody who's been leaving deck lists in our Discord and dropping in decks that you can try out for the new rotation and stuff like that. We're definitely going to feature some of those deck lists next week as we finish off with the Set Champs decks, right? But we have a yellow-purple deck here, Yerbil by Jeffrey Kwan. Huge shout out to you for getting your Woody taken down as Set Champs with the Yerbil strategy. I think this deck is probably, I would argue, second best deck of the format because it just dies to the dog deck. You have so many good cards that lose to Under the Sea, and that's like really this deck's poison in my opinion, like just dying out to an Under the Sea. So who knows? Maybe when Attack of the Vine comes out, we'll see less Under the Seas being played in the meta. I don't necessarily think so though, because you know there's a lot of synergy there. But there's a lot of extra cards you can start thinking about playing in this deck because a lot of these cards are leaving. Right now, the main combo is Dale into Elsa, right? You have that really nice curve, playing a Dale and following up with an Elsa so that you can exert an opposing character and swing for 5. But Elsa's leaving us, and we don't really have any characters like that. I do think this card was overpowered, so the cards they've been printing since then, like Isis Vanderchill, aren't as impactful, right? So you're going to get rid of the Elsas. We also got to get rid of the Palace Guard. So maybe you want to replace that with some extra one-cost characters. Other than that, though, a lot of characters are sticking around in this deck, right?
Lots of new cards do you also consider in this strategy. And because we have some cards that are going to leave us like the Elsa, I think it's better to replace it with some more draw power because Amethyst needs more draw power, as we all know. And this Merida Wisp Conjurer is just the perfect card. We were talking about the Mickey Expedition Leader and how it can enter play Exerted. Let's look at what the Wisp Conjurer does. You can also choose to enter this character Exerted to draw a card, and during your turn, whenever you play a character Exerted, you basically draw a card. And it's really cool with any of the bodyguard abilities that we have. And if you don't have any bodyguards, then you can also just include Powhatan's Staff, a one-cost inkable item that allows you to just make the next character you play with the ability of bodyguard until the start of your next turn. And that also means they can enter play Exerted, which means you can draw a card with the new Merida. I love where Yerpil is going to be at in the next set. I think a lot of people are going to experiment with a different cards, and it's going to be a fun and exciting rotation.
Yeah, my favorite part about these Merida cards, by the way, is that they stack. So if you have a Merida on board and then you play another Merida entered Exerted, you're going to draw 2 cards off of that. And then if you follow that up with a bodyguard character, and there's a lot of low-cost bodyguard characters in Amber. I want to mention we have Rex, we have Raja. You're going to just draw more and more cards. So developing more Meridas is usually pretty beneficial in this type of strategy. I just want to say I've already been like theorizing, and with that Powhatan Staff, you don't even have to really flood your deck with like bad bodyguards, right? You could kind of just give bodyguard to the next Mrs. Incredible you play. Or maybe you want to establish a 5-cost Hades, you pay an extra ink because you already have Willow most of the time, right? It kind of nullifies the extra ink you're paying because you're going to pay the 1 ink and your Hades is still going to only cost 4 because of that grandmother Willow. And you can give it bodyguard. So now your opponent has to decide, okay, they just drew a card and the Hades has bodyguard. And now I have to decide if they're going to let them draw 2 more cards or remove one of my own characters. I am pretty hyped up for Yerpil to be one of the top contenders, at least in the early meta of the post-rotation Attack of the Vine format that we're heading into. There's another card I want to mention for this deck that I think is going to be really strong. Besties Assemble. This is probably one of my favorite cards from this entire set. It's a simple card. I'm a simple man. I like simple cards. 1-cost action, inkable. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Reveal a character, put put it to your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. And I love this ability, man, especially in this type of deck. Yellow purple has already been kind of like the king of mid-range right now. I think it has a really good matchup across the board. And if you build your deck correctly, you get to lean into this late game Raging Storm strategy. And oftentimes you just need like one Demona, one Dumbo to kind of set you off. And being able to look at the top 4 cards just for one ink and find a Demona that you really needed that turn, I think is going to go a long way. Once again, when you have Grandmother Willow on board or a Ham, this kind of feels free, because you're paying one less for the character anyways. I like it. What do you think?
That definitely was my first thought, was that it just kind of just makes the character you play off the Willow the cost it actually is. And that's also a very good thing to combine when you're just using other like amber strategies. I know we previously talked about the Buzz and Woody shift. This is a one cost action that you could play for free after a request with that. So I think this card definitely has a future in amber decks, and I could easily jam up to 4 copies because it's inkable. So I like what they're doing.
Next up, we have a Set Champs winning deck list by Solo Falcon. Huge shout out Solo Falcon, always being a big supporter. Cause I have an enchanted is what the deck list is called, and this is the Ruby-sapphire. It's like a miracle deck, I like to say, because you are trying to put a lot of cards into your discard pile or play multiple actions in one turn, so that you can drop Lilos and Olafs for free. Essentially, normally we see Robin Hood played in this list, but looking like Solo Falcon opted to play 2 copies of Jack Jack Par instead of the Robin Hood, and no locations on the Jack Jack combo deck, because which is interesting. I feel like Jack Jack's best ability is that ability to pop a character. And if you don't know what Jack Jack does, at the start of your turn, before you draw, by the way, you gotta do it before you draw. You mill the top card of your deck. You put it into the discard pile, and depending on what you mill, it depends on what the ability is, right? So if it's a character, you gain 2 strength. If it's an action, then you gain 2 lore, and if it's a location, you get to banish a chosen opposing character, which is really, really strong. But no locations in this list, and I think that's really interesting, because I feel like that's why I like to try Jack Jack. But hey, you got the enchanted. He's a 4/4/4 on curve, not too shabby. Aside from that though, being able to send extra actions into your discard pile will probably make this Olaf cost 0 a lot earlier. Is a 9 cost character, but for every action in your discard pile, you pay 1 less to play this character, and it's probably best you play this in the late game, right? Because while on play, it's gonna make your opponent lose 2 lore, and that's kind of the strategy for this deck. You don't really care about the early game too much. I like this power line that we have here, where you can set up power lines so that you can still sing Beaking Undisputed, shift, sing Grab Your Bow, get some extra value there. I think that's really strong, as opposed to like not playing any early game, right? But where does this deck land post rotation? Because we're losing Shark, we're losing Lilos, and we don't really have much to follow up on with that, I think.
Yeah, as we can see in this list, there is no T-pos or sales, so we're already putting ourselves in the position that we will be in into the rotation right off the bat. And without Lilo and without Maui Shark, I think that this deck doesn't necessarily lean on the actions so much. I do think Powerline has a world to stay in a deck like this, and we could even see Powerline's song Eye to Eye come into play, because I like the ability of kind of like progressing the game and just accelerating it to a point where you can just get more cards out of it. And if you're just playing Eye to Eye for free off of Powerline's ability, it's just another way of getting more actions in the discard. You can play your Olafs even earlier. That lore they just gained was essentially nullified. And if you're drawing cards on your turn, I think it's going to be a little bit more beneficial for you, especially since we still have other ways of getting additional cards into our Inkwell, like with the Kita package that we got from Wilds Unknown. And I would pretty much want to look back rather than look forward right now, because we currently don't have enough revealed cards. I do also want to remind you, Kevin, that Jack Jack is already 1 card away from your Firefly Swarm from being a Dragonfire. So I
Oh
really
yeah,
like that
good point.
ability, just to already start it off, to just put a card in your discard, and then you play 1 action, and the next thing you know, you're starting to banish anything they play off the top of off the top. So you don't even need to hit a location off of Jack Jack. Your Firefly Swarm is going to do that for you anyway. And again, Solo Falcon always completing his side quest, winning a set champs with different color combinations. This is awesome, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, man. I got to keep this Jack Jack conversation going, man, because I'm a big believer in Jack Jack. Maybe we even play the deck to lean into the Jack Jack, right? You go turn one, develop your brain. Turn two, one jump ahead. Turn three, you play the Jack Jack. You start milling locations. You simplify the board. There's some cool locations that I like playing because I have a deck list actually for Red Blue that plays Jack Jack. I like Leviathans there a lot. It's a 4 cost uninkable location that came out in Wilds Unknown, and it simply says if this location is banished, your opponent needs to banish one of their characters, kind of like a beat king undisputed situation, right? And playing a location that only has 4 willpower is usually pretty bad, but one that tells your opponent you're gonna have to trade something into this location, I think that's pretty good. So maybe leaning into the Jack Jack is something that you guys want to try at home. Like Zach said, all the cards aren't revealed yet, so there's going to be a lot of different strategies that might, make themselves apparent as the rest of the cards get revealed. But as of right now, losing Lilo, losing Shark, kind of a big deal for this type of strategy, but I do think you can lean into this Olaf or lean into the idea of playing a lot of actions in this deck, kind of like we were saying, of almost like a miracle deck, because there are still some other ways to play this red-blue strategy, but for sure, we are not really leaning into the ramp, at least not anymore. We haven't seen any Tipo reprint, any Sale reprint, so I think a lot of Sapphire enjoyers are going to have to learn a different way to play this game. Maybe you play the Mickey Mouse Detective Brave Little Prince combo and we start seeing iconic Mickeys, running around in the top tables of the tournament landscape. That would be crazy.
We are about to talk about two green red decks right now, and not one of them being by Tankster. This is a crime. But Zombie Sea Monkey had their green red final list here, and I have to say that they took some time into figuring out how they wanted to build this deck, because they are playing no songs, no Under the Seas, no actions, no Firefly Swarms. They are strictly just dropping bodies, and we are trying to also race with the Mulan, the Resourceful Recruit, one of our favorite princesses from Winterspell, that just seems to be showing up in a bunch of different lists now. That even though Infinity's over and not everyone's just playing like the old Rapunzel combo deck, you get to see this deck shine in other like strength increasing strategies. It makes perfect sense that we're pairing this with Ruby. This works really well with like the Headless Horseman or Medallion Weights and Lumiere, the 2-drop, fiery friend over here that's just giving all your other characters strength and allows you to also dodge Under the Sea in some unique circumstances. So I like that a lot. And we have Genie of the Lamp, a 4 cost 2/3 inkable evasive character that can quest for 2, but while it's exerted, your other characters will gain 2 strength. This is an awesome deck and a very cool strategy to see win a Woody.
Yeah, Genie of the Lamp plus Snowfort combo is really strong. We have some evasive removal, some new evasive removal that's going to be in the Attack of the Vine set. That's going to be able to deal with evasive characters, right? But when you have Snowfort on there, that steel removal on the evasive characters is not going to do as much damage as it should have done before. So being able to set up multiple Snowforts and then a Genie is going to be able to give all your characters a boost, not just your Mulan, by the way. But yeah, this Mulan says it can quest for 6. And 6 is a lot of lore, especially in a game like this. So I can see where this strategy starts to shine. We are losing Clarabelles. We are losing. I repeat, red alert. We are losing the cow, and that is probably the best draw engine for Emerald. As of right now, I don't think we have anything super clean to replace it with, right, in terms of Emerald, Ruby. But I get the feeling that we are going to start seeing some extra support because they made some new green-red dual ink cards. We have Carl Fredrickson and Russell as a Ruby Emerald dual ink character, but this is more of a location strategy, and in my opinion, location strategies haven't been the best in Lorcana. We've seen them top like an event every now and then, like a huge event even, but kind of got to catch the opponent off guard. This Russell Dual Ink Carl card says, while this character is at a location, all characters at the location gain +1 lore and gain evasive. That seems pretty intense though, right? Giving everybody evasive while also giving them some extra lore, and they gave us some locations to synergize with this as well, like the Carl's House location, which is a 2 cost location with 0 move cost. So you're able to, benefit off of locations now in this color combo. But I don't think that's how we're gonna lean into playing this, right? I feel like we're probably gonna keep this deck the way it looks, but maybe add some of that new queen, the disguised queen, the 4 cost that lets you draw a card on play, just to have some more draw power or like some more big bodies. What do you think?
tons of new strategies with green and red. And this is like the Christmas color that never got its true carol to sing because it's never been the most popular color combination in all of Lorcana's history. But with more and more toys coming out that are also Ruby and Emerald, I could see like a toy location strategy with Pizza Planet because you can also just move all your toys into Pizza Planet for free. That Carl and Russell card that you were just talking about is actually going to be very strong into that, just always giving your toys that extra lore, and it's almost like a free move cost like you talked about Carl's house. So why not just use Pizza Planet? And if they decide to get rid of your toys, your opponent's just going to lose all their lore, right? And why not just top that off with more and more toys that can be played for free with all the toys in your discard? You might just be able to play like a toy discard deck. There's lots of things that just put your cards into the discard pile. You kind of like benefit from that with some of the characters that we are going to be playing in this strategy. And yeah, you get to kind of have like a little toy box to play with these color combos. But awesome work. And again, securing a Woody with a not popular color combo has got to feel good.
Next up, we have a 66 card deck list by the Ramen Rider. Huge shout out for making top 8 at your set championship with a non meta deck list. This is the Return of Leviathan deck that a lot of people have been playing recently, and it utilizes the Return of Hercules card to play out a 10 cost character on turn 5. And you're able to set up the ability to blow up the entire board basically with this effect by using cards like Strike a Good Match, Bobby Zamaruski, Inner Strength, and Hypnotic Deduction. All of these cards will let you put cards into your discard pile, so by the time you do use a Return of Hercules, you're going to be able to play out the Leviathan, trigger its ability, and pop as many characters as possible that add up to 10 strength. Pretty strong. You even have the Lady Tremaine Boost Whisper character. This is an interesting card. It says if you put a card under this character this turn and then you quest, you can essentially play a 5-cost action from your discard pile for free, and you can utilize You Came Back to do this multiple times potentially. You could also use this to replay your Return of Hercules, or maybe even something simple like a Strike a Good Match so you can draw a free card. But post rotation, I think this deck is kind of cooked. Robin Hood is gone, Lilo's gone. We're missing the Return of Hercules as well. So it's a shame. It's a shame because this is like one of the better red green strategies that we've seen, in Lorcana, and it took up until what, set 11 for it to be relevant, set 12, and now it's gone. A very short-lived strategy, that very short-lived successful strategy, unfortunately.
Something too that I kind of want to talk about with the sharpshooter Robin Hood, just being able to kind of like use that to fill up your discard pile immediately and just have abilities like Firefly Swarm to start, popping off. Or if you ever needed to, you can essentially just get more actions being played with Lenny to allow you to sing more songs and put more cards in the discard
Oh
pile.
yeah.
Maybe you're just starving to get a Leviathan trigger to go off too. So that's just another way to fuel it right up. But if I were to chime in, I think that there's some life for this deck right outside of the Return of Hercules Leviathan combo. I'm gonna emphasize our Shift Buzz, our Jungle Ranger, because that ability to just give additional lore to one of your characters. I want to revert back to Lenny. You can present kind of like a combo strategy that allows you to just quest for a lot more times than you should, and maybe even just pairing that with the Lady Tremaine and some of the boost cards, because we have like Emily Quaxter and Blessed Bagpipes to kind of essentially give the ability to put cards underneath these characters immediately. It could subsidize what I think would be missing in a deck like this. So you're gonna combo a little bit differently. You won't have the ability to remove a lot of characters off the board. I don't think we're going to have a solution to play Leviathan any cheaper than Return of Hercules can do.
No, not in this deck
Sadly.
anyway.
And with the 2-drop ramp situation that Sapphire isn't going to have anymore, I wonder how Webby's going to do in this meta. At least
Oh yeah.
early on, because that was like the best part about Webby was just against a Sapphire deck. You knew you can just start gaining back that ink pretty much right away, and put them in a situation where they can't use their, ramp acceleration cards as effectively as you can. So again, congratulations. A 66 card pile seems a lot more crazier than a toy box, but hey, anybody can win a Woody, and so can you. You got one more week to do it.
Huge shout out to Wonderful for sharing his red yellow toy deck that he used to take down a set championship with. We've been talking about toys since the beginning of this video, and I think Ruby Amber Toys is going to be the strongest way to play it right out the gate. We have removal with Sid. You have ways to gain lore extra with that Sid ability as well. You have some free toys you can play with Wind Up Frog, and I also like the Pterodactyl Jane doll to be able to steal lore from the opponent, right? I think lore stealing is an undervalued ability. That Olaf card is really strong. So to kind of have the ability to steal lore in this deck is pretty good. Unfortunately, this card is weak. It's only a 1/1/1 character, which means it just dies to everything. And there is some mass removal in the next set coming out like that steel card that does 1 damage to everything. So I don't know if you continue to play toy box like this in the future post rotation. I even want to go as far as to say you can probably play more of a mid-range version because you're already playing this 4-cost Woody. This 4-cost Woody just screams mid-range card to me. It says on play, look at the top 4 cards of your deck and add a toy character to your hand, including itself. So you can just like keep playing this Woody over and over again and keep adding cards to your hand, which is really strong. But probably my favorite part about the toy deck is the ability to use the Della's Moon Lullaby with a Horseman combo or Jesse with Horseman combo. This yellow strategy to lower the opposing strength on the side of the board is already really strong because it lasts until the start of your next turn. So your opponent can't really challenge your characters when you do this, but the best part about it is being able to combo it off with a Horseman. The Headless Horseman will banish any character with 2 strength or less. And yeah, you have a really easy time manipulating the opposing side of the board strength with this. So I think this is going to be one of the stronger decks to, come out right out the gate from post-rotation meta.
I do want to chime in a little bit, Kevin. I'm not a big fan of the Le Pupille, that is the French name of the pterodactyl Jane doll, but it's a 1-cost character. So Jungle Guide can essentially play that for free, and I think you need more targets. Essentially, that's kind of why we also probably threw Hand in a Box in this deck right now. And this is
I see.
literally like a rotation-proof list. If you are looking to get a deck that is safe for the next rotation, buy your toys. Buy your Ruby Amber toys. A lot of people are playing these cards right now. They are very strong, and I've actually I've taken a liking to a lot of the newer toys being revealed in Attack of the Vine. We have a new Woody coming out, a 4-cost uninkable Woody that's got 2 different effects or both effects if you have a toy in play. And I love this new design. I've been talking about choose one abilities that need to have a stipulation that you can choose all options
Yeah.
based on something like that. I've said it before when they revealed like cards like Anna, the diplomatic queen from Shimmering Skies, and they never really did anything with her. She popped off in one DLC and never really saw play again. But I don't think these are going to be the case for the toys. I think the toys are going to see tons of play because this new Woody is essentially just a way to get back your toys and play them for free. Because if you have a toy in play, you can get both those abilities to go off, which is insane. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see this card kind of kick out some of the other toy cards that we had in this deck. I can also just imagine like bringing back a Rex, playing it for free, and just dropping it bodyguard every time. So your opponent just has to challenge into it, lose one of their characters, and also give you an additional lore. It sounds really good.
There's a song I want to mention that might be playable in this deck because you can play out Bullseye by turn 2, meaning you can sing 3-cost songs pretty early. That's why you have You Got a Friend in Me. But alongside You Have a Friend in Me, maybe you want to consider adding If I Didn't Have You. This is a new song that features Mike and Silly on it, and I'm super hyped for this, by the way. Probably one of my favorite songs from any like Disney movie is If I Didn't Have You, and it has a pretty cool ability. You and another chosen player, or your opponent, both get to draw 2 cards. And I think in a deck like this, or in a lot of strategies for Lorcana, you don't really mind if your opponent draws like too many cards in the early game, mainly because they only have a limited amount of ink anyways. So like if you're going much faster than them, if you have like all the board control and you're not really afraid of them just board wiping you, then you can essentially, keep questing and keep giving cards to the opponent, you know, and not really worry about that because you can lower their strength with Jesse, stop them from clearing your board, quest for 2 with Woody, quest for 2 with Sid, quest for 2 or play a free bouncing ducky even. I don't know. I think this is going to be a pretty strong way to add consistency to decks like this because by turn 2, you're drawing 2 cards because of the bullseye. I like it. And last but not least, huge shout out to the local homie Lorcana Spins taking down the set champs with none other than dogs. Zach, you mentioned something to me really important. You said you had a lot of people that wanted to build dog decks just for the last week of set champs because people are getting desperate for them Woodies. Like they just want to win a Woody and call it a day. And dogs is the deck to do it. You know, not to say that Spins did that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of dogs at these set champs, these last couple set champs, kind of giving it a last hurrah and also, you know, a quick way to acquire that Woody, man. And this strategy, you know, like we said earlier, probably not going to leave with the toys coming into play. That's probably what you replace it with. But are there any other ways to play Amber Emerald going into the new format, right? Like previously, we've had Circle of Life strategies. We've tried to do that before. We've seen people try and utilize like discard strategies. We don't really have a lot of discard anymore in this color pair. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go, if there's any other strats. Like, what do you think, Zach?
Well, I first and foremost want to say, you know, I myself hold no judgment on anybody that chooses to bring a dog deck to a set championship this set.
I do.
If you want to play a dog deck and to give yourself the best chance of securing a Woody, that is your prerogative, and I encourage you to do what you like to do in this game. Point with the future of Emerald and Amber strategies and potentially Sing Together cards that we're getting, Malin Lee and Four Town. These are new cards that also benefit or are restricted to only being, you know, Sing Together cards, essentially, because Malin Lee, a 1-cost inkable 0 strength 3 willpower character, has Singer 3 but can only be used to Sing Together cards. And Four Town, this is a 4-cost uninkable Singer 5 character here, and when you use him to sing together a Sing Together song, that essentially draws you a card. So you are getting the additional benefit of playing some of the previous cards that we had released in Wilds Unknown. Like you can also play Buzz Lightyear on the go, and that is just basically another way to draw and discard cards that you might want to put in there for Circle of Life. And we all love our Shift Buzz, but what if we're playing Shift copies for free too with Metamorphosis? I just want some people to think about what's already been released too and what's staying within the core constructed format, because that's our card pool. I am looking ahead. I am very excited for the reveals, but for every new card revealed, there's always like 2 cards I'm looking back at, you know? And that's where we're at as deck builders. That's where we're at as competitive players. We see these cards revealed and it's sparking up other ideas, and it's going to be a very hectic, you know, first week of Attack of the Vine. We all know about the discussion between, you know, stores not having enough for their players, not having enough to sell and you know, consistently do what they've used to been doing. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see a scramble for some single cards in the first week, and there are going to be a lot of people that are, you know, racing to get some of these cool cards that they hear about with some interesting strategies. But let time take its let time run its course. Some very cool strategies that start off very hyped in the beginning don't really pan out too well as the meta develops. You never really know where it's going to settle, and it always tends to lean on like aggro first. So just be very careful about getting suckered into these awesome strategies that we're going to see in the future, because not every idea is going to be good later on.
Yeah, it's happened before in the past. We've seen a lot of card reveals. We've seen card prices shoot up for no reason before a card's even been released, right? So be patient with your deck building. Try your ideas, talk to your homies, go to your local game store, support your local game store, play some tournaments, and be patient. We have a couple more reveals to go before we have the entire set. And the next couple weeks, or next couple days actually, we're going to see them online through your favorite content creators. So if you like this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Just like you have with your other content creators, so you can keep seeing more Lorcana Monday news, meta trends. My name's Kevin. We're here with Zach Stone in the Ring of Stones. We know we've been talking a lot about dogs for the last couple weeks, and I think it's going to be very refreshing. Hopefully by next week, we can not talk about any old decks, and we could just strictly mention like everything new that's happening post rotation, what we think we're gonna build, starting off with like all these like crazy color combos that we're getting revealed. These new strategies I'm super hyped for, and personally, I'm really hyped to play the Mike Wazowski cards. You know what I mean? The Sully and Boo, the Monsters Inc. cards. That's probably what I'm looking forward to most in Attack of the Vine. Zach, real quick before we go, so far in which we've been revealed, from what we've seen, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, first and foremost, I think Ruby Am Supers. I've said this before in previous videos. I think that deck is going to come out swinging. No offense taken to anyone that feels otherwise. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below what you guys think is also going to be one of the top decks in the very beginning of the new core constructed format. This is also going to be something to consider for those CCQs that are going to be happening on after July 17th and then on out. I don't know. I'm really torn on what I think is going to be the best and what I'm looking forward to the most because I still want to see all the reveals.
Any card that's been revealed that you're looking forward to?
The number one card probably was that Merida that we talked about earlier. When I saw that, I started looking at every single card that I could play exerted, and there's tons. There's a lot of Emerald cards that do that. A lot of Amber cards that do that. Any Bodyguard card does that too. So you can even see like some Purple Steel decks start to get played a little bit more with that strategy. So I would probably say that one right now. When I saw the Buzz and Woody shift, I thought I liked it, but then the more I
Yeah.
realized that the dual link restriction, I'm like, there's not so many cards that I feel like I can get away with this. And plus, like I don't get to use a Kuda to Moody and shift it like a very clean way, So I can
Mm.
see that card just getting more and more I would call bait in the beginning, even though a lot of people are hyping it up. It only does it once. It doesn't continuously draw like Clarabelle does. It's not going to be a Clarabelle card. It's going to be a totally different card.
No, I agree with you there. Yeah, I'm glad we mentioned that because it's in my testing so far. It doesn't do what you want it to do as well as Clarabelle, for example, right? But yeah, good points, good points. That's a big one that a lot of people are hyping up. But a big one that I'm looking forward to is the Vine Towering Stock. This 10 cost character. I feel like this is gonna be like the towers, for for anybody who understands that reference. I'm looking forward to the Vine and this like Floodborn Vineling strategy going on. I think that's gonna be really strong. But until then, remember to stay tuned to Lorcana Goons. We have more cards to be revealed. We have Market Watch videos on Friday, videos in between. So like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. My name is Kevin. We're here with Zach Stone in the Ring of Stones, and we'll see you Goons next time.